What's up boys and girls, it's your boy Seth and welcome to my top 10 RPGs you should be playing in 2020. These are not just new games that came out in 2020, and this is a list about games that are mainly meant to be single player RPGs. I will be doing another list for MMORPGs, so be on the lookout for that video. So enough introduction and let's start at number 10 with Dark Souls 3. Now, I'm not a Dark Souls fanboy, but the truth is you can't make a top RPG list without including Dark Souls one way or the other. This franchise inspired a whole new genre, and is the reference for every new Souls-like. Forget the difficulty and the super punishing bosses. What makes this so great is that it redefined the concepts of dungeon mobs and dungeon bosses, and it brought back tension and pressure to boss fights. Each fight will keep you on edge, punish your mistakes and teach you new strategies in the process. Many do not just play the game once, but replay it over and over again, to either try something new like a new build, or simply see how far they can push themselves. Do not be discouraged by how hard people claim this game to be, and go try it out. At number 9 is Pillars of Creation 2, and I wanted to showcase both the first and second installment in one spot. Greatly inspired by classic CRPGs like Baldur's Gate, Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2 feature vast worlds with a rich lore that you can explore through well-written and varied quests. The dialogue is amazing too, and as for the combat, if you are a fan of classic real-time with pause combat system, you are in for a treat. If that's not enough, Pillars of Eternity 2 is made by one of the best studios around who are also responsible for the next title in the list. The Outer Worlds, which comes in at the 8th spot. The Outer Worlds is set in an Earth-colonized solar system called Halcyon, which is ruled by a sinister corporation. You are the lone passenger who survived from cryostasis aboard a ship full of colonizers, and then you're off on an adventure to save Halcyon from evil. It attempts to recreate the magic of Fallout New Vegas, and it succeeds to some extent. The Outer Worlds treat you to an adventure featuring great dialogue, engaging characters, and a world that is not too vast, but also big enough to keep you interested in exploring it. It does that mainly through brilliant voice acting and witty humor, and that makes it a great RPG. For number 7 we have Path of Exile, and I hesitated between Diablo 3 and PoE, but the decision for me came down to one main aspect that Path of Exile absolutely shines in: replayability. Sure, D3 is also replayable to some extent, but PoE was built for that specific purpose initially. Its developers have been adding regular content and expansions since its release. At least 9 expansions have been released in total, and that number is staggering. Path of Exile sucks you in with its engaging content, and the player base is not lacking either. Any action RPG fan will have a blast playing PoE, and I encourage you guys to check it out. At number 6 comes an installment of a fan favorite series, Fallout 4. Some people will argue that Fallout New Vegas deserves the spot more, and while I agree it is better, it is starting to age though. Fallout 4 improves on the legendary game series. Set in a nuclear apocalypse, the world is constantly trying to kill you. Even the cockroaches are deadly, but only at the start though. Great quest writing, the ability to join different factions, weapons customization, a vast world to explore, and the ability to build and design your own town make Fallout 4 a staple for any decent game library. Next at number 5 is Final Fantasy XV, which I have been hyped for ever since I saw the Kingslave animated movie. Just like most Final Fantasy games, it's as much an adventure game as it is an RPG. You play as Prince Noctis, who's gone rogue ever since the occupation of his kingdom, and he attempts to get it back with the help of his guards who are more like buddies than bodyguards. You explore the gorgeous Eos using your car and your occasional chocobo, and grow powers along the journey. Contrary to the classic Final Fantasy turn-based combat, 15 is more action-oriented, with combos that have to be timed for added excitement. And it is of course an open-world title. FF15 deserves the 5th spot because of its heartwarming story and likable characters. If you ever decide to check it out, this game will hit you hard in the feels. At number 4 is a legendary classic that never fails to surprise us in the best way. Breath of the Wild is so well named because it is like a breath of fresh air for the Legend of Zelda series. Ever since I played The Link to the Past, I had this secret fantasy. What if I can experience more of this world and feel like living in it? And they did exactly that in Breath of the Wild, and boy is it good. The world is so colorful, so warm, but also serious and tense at times. Although it does not have the complexity of choice making that other titles in this list have, it does give you the choice of going straight for the final boss from the very start of the game, which is a pleasant surprise. Like its predecessors, puzzles make a big part of its gameplay with the Sanctuary system. There are so many activities that you can do in the outside world, so much so that I've stayed for hours doing only side quests and optional missions, and that is a sign of a great RPG. Suffice to say that The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is the game that made me buy a Nintendo Switch. Now on to the top 3 winners, and I really had a tough time ranking them because they are all among the best in history. At number 3, nearly a decade old Skyrim remains to this day one of the best RPGs of all time. This game revolutionized the open world genre. I mean, it had it all: the story, the items, the quest lines, the dungeons, the exploration, and oh my god, the music. No wonder that in 2020 a ton of people still play Skyrim. There is an entire community of modders out there and hundreds of thousands of mods. With enough mods you can literally have a whole different game. There are visual mods, combat mods, and even mods extending quests or adding new ones. And even if you don't care about mods, the base game alone and its expansions offer almost 200 hours of breathtaking content. And with a visual remake of the special edition, it has aged pretty well. If you haven't already played Skyrim, go get it now. I could make a 1-hour video talking about Skyrim, but I'll spare you that, and instead move up to the runner-up, which is unsurprisingly The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. And I'm positive that a whole lot of people have already praised it enough. I mean, The Witcher 3 has over 800 awards, that's record-breaking. Wild Hunt has more story and character development in its side quests than other games have in their main storyline. I'm not kidding. If you think I'm overestimating it, go check out the Baron's quest line in Witcher 3. That's just one example of so many more. Everything about it screams classic Western RPG inspired by traditional folktales. And Geralt of Rivia is such a complex personality, but also not so complex once you understand his principles. The world of The Witcher is designed to immerse you in the game and lose yourself in its magical but very relatable world. I only spoke about the story, but the gameplay is every bit as epic too, and the game makes it very clear from the very first Griffin fight. Witcher 3 may be the only game out there that can dethrone Skyrim and compete with it, and I certainly consider it among the best in history. Finally, for our winner, and the game I recommend the most in this list, is Divinity Original Sin 2. One of, if not the most detailed RPGs ever. Let's say you encounter a kind priestess that devoted her life to helping others, but going through books you looted, you discover she's an immortal who burned entire villages, but regretted her actions centuries later. Do you kill her for her crimes, or do you consider she deserves forgiveness? This is one of hundreds of choices that you randomly encounter and that impact other quests. This is a game of many overlapping storylines and character development. You go deep in the story of every character in your party, and these are not your typical bland and repeated storylines. Each member of your party has his own mysteries that you uncover bit by bit, and over which you have a great deal of control. With the wrong choices you can even be deserted by your companions. Divinity is a turn-based RPG, meaning every action requires action points. And during combat you can interact with anything around you, like setting a barrel of oil on fire to create an explosion, or if your enemies are standing on water, you can electrify it under them. Interacting with the world goes beyond just combat. In fact, the game gives you items and abilities that when combined, allow you to abuse some game mechanics. It's borderline cheating, but that's totally legitimate because the game gives you all the elements, but it's up to you to use them in clever ways. Out of the 10 games we covered, Divinity Original Sin 2 has the world that is impacted the most from the player's actions. If you haven't played this game yet, then what are you doing? Go play it, and make sure you pick up the Definitive Edition because it adds a ton of interesting stuff. So that's it for this list. Do tell me in the comments if you have different games in mind. I do reviews, walkthroughs, and top 10 lists. So subscribe for more content and be sure to activate notifications to stay up to date with the latest uploads. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching. Until next time guys, take care. Peace!